Let's get it.
KSAP Beats.
Right, I'm back with another episode of Wired In with Apavelli. It's been a little minute, right? It's been about over a month since I've recorded the last episode. And that's only because I've been really busy working on multiple projects. So I've kind of neglected the podcast. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try not to do that. What I decided to do is I'm going to change the format of the podcast. Now, the current format of the podcast is basically, I guess you could say it's more of a teaching podcast, which it still will be, where every week I pick a topic, doing C# or Python, JavaScript, basically choosing a programming language and basically dissecting the language, writing code, having video for you to watch along, and uploading code to my GitHub page. Well, I decided after doing some thinking, I'm probably not going to do the current format. I'm going to change it a little bit. I will every once in a while when I talk about a specific technology. I'll do a video where it's like a code along, I guess. And but generally what I'm going to do every week, I'm just going to talk about, software development, software engineering, coding, give my thoughts on what's going on in different programming trends, or software development trends, talk about different languages. I might just talk about different APIs, different libraries, different frameworks, talk about design patterns, from a high level standpoint. And the reason why I'm changing the direction is because we have a lot of different videos and a lot of different courses where people can just go learn to code. So basically I could teach, have this be a podcast where I'm teaching you to code, but we have so many different platforms that do that. So I'm just going to do things a little different. I'm just going to basically just shoot and talk about software development, technology. I might talk about different topics here and there. I might have guests every now and then. So it's going to be kind of a general podcast, but it's going to be more focused on software development and technology in general. So I wanted to record today because I felt really bad that I haven't recorded a podcast in a little over a month. And, I don't like to start something and don't finish it and never finish it, because that's just not good. And that's not just who I am. But I'm going to let you know what's been going on with me. So I'm working on a project. Well, I have an app called Living with Myasthenia Gravis. Myasthenia Gravis is an autoimmune disease that basically affects the muscle. It basically tells the brain to don't let these muscles work from a high level standpoint. So I created an app, was it last year? I believe it was last year or 2017. I can't remember, and it's available in the Google Play Store and the Microsoft Store. I haven't reached iOS yet, but maybe in the future. And basically it helps people keep track of their daily progress with myasthenia gravis, keep track of their medications, activities, and I'm updating with new features. And I'm probably going to collaborate with another organization, integrate some of their features in the app to help patients find cures find clinical trials or different medications in their area. And I'm really happy about working on this project because not a lot of people know about myasthenia gravis. It's just about everyone I meet. I'm like, hey, you ever heard of myasthenia gravis? They're like, no, what's that? I'm like, okay. So then I have to explain it to them. How did it happen to me? I don't know, but my theory is I got hit in the head with a baseball. So I'll get into that on another episode. I'm actually going to do an episode probably in June, talking about myasthenia gravis, because June is Myasthenia Gravis Awareness Month, and I will go into detail a little bit more about myasthenia gravis, and I'll talk about the app a little bit more as well. I've also launched weddingbudgetapp.com. Weddingbudgetapp.com. That website basically, it's a website to help you plan for your wedding, but it's still a work in progress. So right now, I have it to where you can basically calculate your budgets, but I'm looking to add more features. Like I'm working on a login system, registration. I want this to be an application for everyone to use, and I'm just going to add more features. But you can download the app in the Google Play Store and the Microsoft Store, weddingbudgetapp.com. And I'm also working on a way to sync all the applications together. So basically, when you log in on your Android device, you'll be able to log in on your Windows device or website and view your data or update your budgets. So I'm working on that, and it's pretty fun. I have a couple domains that I just purchased. I also launched my basketballplaybook.com. So you can download my basketball playbook. I'm actually working on features for that, but I'm working on the features now because basketball season is pretty much over. So what I like to do during the off season is work on features and have them ready for the fall for release. And same thing with the hockey playbook. And I have a football playbook app, but it's called Play Calling System. But I'm in the process of rebranding that app. Probably gonna work on that in June or July and release it. I have Fill Budget app I'm working on. I'm working on a lot of different projects, and on top of that, I'm trying to do this podcast. So I have a lot going on. So pretty much, when I say this is my life, this is my life, and I love it. This is pretty much, how athletes, they play basketball, football, baseball. They have heroes. They have things that they study. They have players that they study. That's how I am about my craft. There's other developers I study, talk to mentors, and they help me become a better software developer. So I think it's important to really know if this is something you want to do. And I guess that's what I'm going to transition and talk about is I'm going to really talk about, I guess, the journey of a software engineer, whether it's corporate or independent or whether you're running a company. So as you just heard me list a few apps that I'm working on. I mean, I have a lot of apps in the store. So I started my own company, like I mentioned on the first episode. My company is Pragmatic Dev Solutions. It's a software development company, obviously, where I build apps and I build software for different organizations. I collaborate with other organizations to help solve a problem. That's the goal of my company. I want to make practical applications. I want to solve practical problems. And no, I want to solve problems, and I want to make software that's practical for them to use. So that's the goal of my company. And like I said before, I think I mentioned this in the first episode, I didn't like coding at first. I didn't think I would be good at it. But then I developed a love for it. And I said, okay, I'll get a job. Now, I've worked in the corporate world. I worked a few jobs. I was a contractor. And here's the thing what people don't understand. When you sign up and say, hey, when you decide that, hey, I'm going to sign up and be a software developer, it's not that easy. Because it changes all the time. And there's so many different paradigms in software development. I mean, you could be a game developer, you could be a web developer, you could be a mobile app developer, you can be develop AI systems, augmented reality. There's just so many different paradigms where it can be overwhelming, but you have to pick which one that you're more interested in. I like all of it, but mostly I like building applications. I like building mobile apps, and I'm starting to get into more intelligent applications and integrating them in my mobile apps, and I also like web development. But it's really, I feel, in my opinion, that you got to really have a passion to say, hey, I'm going to be a software developer, whether it's in the corporate world or independent, because you're constantly learning. A couple years ago, I worked for a company where we went through a training program and pretty much didn't have a life. We learned so many technologies, and at that time, we were learning enterprise development, Java, so learning Spring, Struts, Hibernate, web services, all that just in a matter of time. I pretty much had no life. I had to study because we were tested on this stuff just to make sure we were good for our clients. And even when you get on the job, you might have to learn a technology over the weekend. And you have to be willing to say, hey, I'm going to take time and learn this technology. For example, let's say you get a project and you're used to using Java, but they say, hey, we're going to use C# or we're switching to JavaScript. You're like, oh man, I haven't done that. Now, usually some organizations will pay for you to have a course, but I believe you should really do your own projects on your downtime. It might be hard, but because you're working 9 to 5, you're writing code, and it's kind of hard to be motivated and say, hey, I got to work on my own project. Because you're tired, you're drained. I get it. I've been there. But for me, it's hard for me. The reason why I decided to go in business for myself is because I didn't really have good luck, finding employment after a while. I was supposed to receive my security clearance and work for Department of Homeland Security, and I waited a year, and they didn't even call back. They didn't say I didn't get the job or whatever. And my background was clear, but there was a backlog or something happened. Like, they were really backed up. This was a couple years ago. I can't even remember, but they were really backed up and they were really behind on the clearances. And I think they just closed the position. Yeah, I think that's what happened. They closed the position. So I waited for a year to get a clearance. But in the meantime, I was looking for other work. And here's my problem when it comes to finding a job as a software developer. You have these interviews where they make you write on the whiteboard and do all this crazy stuff. But that doesn't really define a good programmer to me. To me, a good developer is a person that can solve the problem. It's not about them giving them some crazy scenario and say, hey, solve this problem. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then if you don't think their way or solve it in a way that they think you should solve it, they won't hire you. But you're probably good for the job. But a lot of times these organizations, they don't know what they want, from my experience. Yeah, I've been on several interviews. I mean, several. I can't even count. In the year 2016, I was so burned out with interviews. And at that time, I decided, hey, I'm going to start my own company because I'm tired of dealing with this shit. So I'm still taking interviews and I'm getting denied. It was this one company, I think it was Allstate. I had an interview. I got hired. They said, hey, we're going to hire you. I'm like, great. But then they called me back a week later. Oh, we have issues with the budget because it's a contract position. It's very rare you get a full-time position as a software developer. Usually companies like to contract developers. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Another interview. Didn't hear back from them. Another interview. Now this one I thought I really had this job. I think it was with Deloitte, working on a project for the IRS, and I was getting grilled for like an hour. I mean, I feel like I was being like it was an interrogation, like asking me all these questions. So then I get a call back from the recruiter. He's like, the guy said he would hire you if it were up to him. I'm like, so I had to go through another process? Like, I thought I answered all the questions. So then they called me for an in-person interview. It seemed to go well. And I get a call back, and the recruiter's like, well, they really liked you, but they're going to interview some more people, but you're a top candidate. I'm like, okay, I think I got this job. A couple more weeks go by, and I get a call, and the recruiter's like, well, they didn't feel like you had enough experience. So I went from being a top candidate to not having enough experience. That doesn't make any sense to me. They just didn't want to hire me. And I was just so tired of the disappointment. And a lot of times these people who interviewed me, they were very arrogant. I had one person interview me. He was a real experienced developer. And I think he mostly done C++. Now, C++ is a really great language and is really complex because I feel like if you learn C++, you will learn how devices work because you have to deal with memory management. I've done a little C++ in my day, but it's been years. But anyway, he started talking about how Java is the shitty language. I'm like, okay, so why are you interviewing me? But here's the crazy thing. He still passed me to go to the second interview. Maybe he was just testing me to see how I would react, but he appeared a little bit arrogant. So after a while, I just said, you know what? I'm very creative. I could just put out my own software. I'll just start my own company. And it's not easy. It's really hard. I mean, it sounds fun. It is fun. Don't get me wrong. It is fun. But it's very challenging because there's days where you have really good days and there's days that are not so good, where you're making pretty good money, and there's days where revenue is not so good. And the hardest thing that I'm learning is keeping that consistency. And you have to, if you're going in business for yourself, you have to handle the marketing. You have to build the product. You have to create the content. You have to do documentation. All that for one individual is pretty challenging, but this is what I signed up for. And being an appreneur is what people call it, or an entrepreneur, or a software engineer who happens to be an entrepreneur, I find myself trying different things. And one thing I can say that I do enjoy about being an entrepreneur, running my own company, is there's rough days, but it forces me to learn all the time. And I can learn new technologies where when you are with a company, you might be stuck using one technology for 20 years before you decide to use a different technology. And I just think there's just no growth in that. And I'm the kind of person that just likes to learn. And I don't want to be stuck using a technology for 20 years. That's just, I didn't sign up to be just I guess a code monkey, or you just give me requirements and I just write the code. I'm more than just a coder. I design the product and I build the product. Meaning, when I say design, I'm talking about in the software engineering world, where I design the application, like I design it in my head, put it in flowcharts, paper, and then I build it, which is writing the code. So I design, develop, debug, and deploy my application. Like I mentioned in the first episode, I have my own server. I rent a server every year. I pay probably about $1,000 a year for this server. And it's well worth it because I can use any language. I can use PHP. I can use Java. I have my own private Java virtual machine. So I've taken years of experience that I've learned in the enterprise world, and I apply it to building my own applications, which is really, really cool. If I didn't have experience in Java, I mean, I could use the newer like Node for the back end and just stick with PHP, but Java's really good for certain things, certain kind of websites. Like if you're building a banking system or something like that, Java to me is the way to go for security, and it's more mature. But anyway, just having the options of using whatever language I want. Now, mind you, I don't really have much of a life. When you're an entrepreneur, you're not rich. You don't have a lot of money. You're broke. You don't really have a social life. I have few friends, but I talk to them every now and then. I have close friends that I talk to, but that's okay. I don't hang out much. I'm not dating right now. I'm single. Most of my friends are in relationships or either married, so they can't really relate to me. I can't really relate to them. And that's not saying we're not friends, but just it's different. We don't have time to really talk. Two different lives. So this journey, you're really alone. Like I'm kind of going all over the place, which is okay. I'm just wired in, I had caffeine this morning, so I'm really wired in. So, like I said, it has its moments, but the thing is, you're in control. No one's telling you what to do, but you got to have the discipline, and you got to be able to be consistent and not let a lot of noise keep you from going forward. A lot of times too, we live in a world where everything is so fast paced, where we don't have patience, we don't trust the process. People will say, "Oh, you're just another entrepreneur," and I think entrepreneur is becoming a trend. And I don't think it's a bad trend, because I think whether you work a job or not, I believe you should have a side hustle to where you're making money, and you can use your passion, use your gift to make money, because we have the internet. I mean, things are just much more accessible now. Like about 20 years ago, creating software, you didn't just have a platform where you can just distribute it in the app stores and reach people all over the world. We didn't have that. You would have to package it, send it to stores and hope that you get sales. And it's different now. It's a lot much easier to just put it out there. And same thing if you are doing something like, if you want to be an actor, or you want to be a cook, you want to be on the Food Network, you can create a YouTube channel, good quality channel, and put yourself out there. But it just takes a lot of discipline and patience. But we live in a world where if something doesn't happen in 24 hours, we're willing to quit. And that's what I learned becoming an entrepreneur. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't move as fast as you think. It's really a process. And you can't listen to anybody. You're going to have negative people trying to install doubt in your head. You can't listen to that. You have to uninstall that shit. Don't listen to any of that negative stuff. And then people will tell me, hey, well, maybe you'll make the app that's a big hit, that's $1 million. And it's like, that's not why I do it. that's the wrong attitude to have. Don't become an independent software developer because you think you're going to get $1 million off one app. The gold rush is over. And, you know, now it's all about building something that's useful. You know, everybody's working on the next big app. You look at Uber, they took years. You know, people were just now hearing Uber over the last few years, and maybe about almost 10 years. They've been around for a while, I think since 2008, but they kept working, they kept going. Most of these tech companies, you know, they started out in their garage. So, you know, it just takes time, sacrificing. And what I've learned about sacrificing is you have to literally eat, sleep, and breathe what you do. If you really want to have financial success in what you do, first, I believe you focus on your gift. Your gift will make room for you. The money will follow, so you shouldn't really worry about the money. But in order to make good money, you have to put in the work. Like even at these corporations, these big executives, they don't necessarily work a 9 to 5. You know, the people that's getting like the $50K salary, they may work a 9 to 5 or a $100K salary, but the millionaires are working all the time. You know, they don't really have a set schedule. You know, they just work. And you can't waste a lot of time, you know, on entertainment so much. And what I mean by that, there's nothing wrong with watching a show or watching a movie, spending time. You know, you do need to unwind, but we live in a world now where we're so saturated with different TV shows. We feel like we have to watch. We feel like we have to be, you know, in tune with everything that's going on. Oh, I'm missing out. I didn't watch this show. There's nothing wrong with watching a show or 2 shows or whatever, or a weekend binge watching if you want to relax. But just think the time that you spend watching shows on social media, you know, you're really robbing yourself from reaching your goals. Like, I cut back my social media. Like, I mostly use social media for marketing. I don't have a personal Facebook page. I have app pages. I have an Instagram, and I'm on Twitter, and I have a LinkedIn, but I'm not like on there all the time because it's taking me away from creating. We're so distracted nowadays to where, you know, that's why I believe most businesses fail, because you don't try. You know, we want things to happen now, and if it doesn't, it's like, okay, we quit. So, you know, I have my moments, and also too, surround yourself with like-minded people. You know, like, surround yourself around people who you can encourage each other. You know, don't surround yourself with people who are so damn negative, you know, because then you're going to start thinking negative, and then you won't be successful, not even just in business, but in life if you listen to people. So that's I pretty much just gave you the journey of entrepreneurship, not even just as a software developer, but this can apply to anyone. It's not just for me, but I'm just pretty much telling you my experience, and I'm just keeping it real because, you know, you hear these motivational speakers, they'll get you pumped up, you know, which is great. You know, they get you pumped up and you're on fire, but, you know, you can listen to them, but don't take literally everything they say when they say, oh, no sleep, blah, blah, blah. I get what they're saying. You do have to rest, but you need to you can listen to different individuals and take from each individual you listen to and incorporate that into your own. You have to create your own routine. I don't think you will be successful following everyone's blueprint. I believe you have to create your own blueprint, but I do believe we can learn from others to create our own blueprint and do what works for us. I don't believe in following, you know, because there are a lot of amazing motivational speakers. I see them on YouTube, but I don't have to follow everything they do. You know, I have enough self-discipline to create, you know, my own routine. You know, I don't have to be forced to do what I do. Now, I have my moments where I don't feel like it, but I have to press and just do it. You know, I just have to do it. So basically, to some, I have no life. I do have a life, which is what I'm doing now. But I don't have the average life. I don't party. Like I said, I don't party. I do go out to a coffee shop a couple times a week and get a nice cup of coffee. Sometimes I do work there, and that's about it. Or occasionally I will go somewhere every now and then, but mostly I'm just usually I'm working. I go outside, I go for walks, I be in tune with nature, and I'm just always creating and trying to collaborate with other like-minded individuals. So that's it for this episode. I just wanted to kind of get you guys caught up on what's going on, and the format of the podcast has changed. I don't know what I'll talk about next week. I guess you'll find out next week. So I'm not going to tell you what's going to be the next topic. It's just whatever I feel like talking about. And again, you can follow me on Instagram at Apavelli, on Twitter at Apavelli. You can visit my website, www.pragmaticdevsolutions.com. All this will be in the show notes. And you guys stay encouraged, stay wired in.